microphone, but I probably should. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It's so nice to see the sunshine and have a couple of nice days before we hit the cold weather, I guess. We were able to spend a lot of time Friday and Saturday outside, so it is just so nice. I hope you all can get outside today again as well. So our announcements for today, we have our typical Tuesday evening, 6 o'clock here at the bridge. If you're able to come, we just have open doors, so just time to connect with each other midweek. So if you're able to make that, that would be great. Next Saturday, it's already here, is the event. So that's the 26th, 6:30 in the evening. So I have a bunch of announcements for that. So if you can make it, please come. If you can come early, 6 o'clock, if you can come just to kind of be here to greet people and whatnot. The maze, we're concerned about parking. Obviously, our parking lot is not very big. So if you can connect with the maze, they live just up the hill, and maybe park at their place. Sam will do a little bit of bringing people down from there around 6 o'clock. I'm volunteering him. You can see his face. He has nothing about this. I was going to say both giveaways, but Elisha's doing sound, so he'll be preoccupied. You only need to be here a little bit before. So 6 o'clock-ish, if you're able to. Connect with the maze, though, so they know kind of who to expect and who's coming, that kind of thing, so they can figure out parking for some extra people up there. So thank you for allowing that. So, the other thing, and then carpool if you're able to otherwise, so that we can have as little cars as possible. We can park like down here too, to let the parking lot for kind of some other people. I think we're thinking if somebody can kind of man the parking lot to sort of direct people where to park, so we can kind of have it maybe sort of in line, so that we can get as many cars in as we can too. So let us know if you'd be interested in helping with that as well. We're going to also have some refreshments if you'd be interested in making, I'm thinking keep it super simple, chips, pretzels, and then some cookies. We'll have those downstairs. So if you're interested in making anything to bring, please let me know. I'm just going to Diane and I were talking about it before. So just talk to me afterwards if you'd be interested in that. And then obviously invite people, as many as you can. We'd like to fill it up here to have a good audience for everybody to just hear what Chad has to say, and certainly to hear Olivia as well. And be prayerful about the people that are coming, that they're able to hear what God needs them to hear for the day, that their hearts and minds will be open to that. So all of those things, keep in mind. So I think that's good for today.
Please stand, let's worship.
You have brought me to such a freedom. Morning, everybody. All right, let's pray. Dear God, amen. All right, you can have a seat. Kids, you're free with Angel. So we have an amazing thing coming up as well. Of course, the event and part of the event, it's in the DNA of this church. This is what we've always been looking for. We've always been looking for to support and celebrate the arts and the being made in the image of a wildly creative God. We affirm that creation, that creative spark, wherever it is. By the way, when we set everything up the way that it is, this is exactly how it's supposed to be. I love that it's like this. It never is like that. It's so good. So this is awesome. So it was always part of that, affirming the artistic nature in all of us, the creation in all of us. So when we do something like this, and the reason that we were always going to do this, we were going to bring people in and we were going to love them. And we were going to point out that they're doing this. We are affirming it because God tells us to affirm it. That by doing that, we are affirming the God that created us all. The second part is we love to be together and support this because we are made that way as well. So the whole idea was always to invite people in here to see these bands, to see these people, to see these artists, and all of that stuff, and we would love them. So that's the point. That's the point. So they will come in and we will love them. So what we do better than anybody else that I have found is love people. So when she comes in here, I just want us to love her, and I want us to love her whole family and all of the stories around there that people got here. So that's Saturday, and that's a really cool thing. The other really amazing thing has to do with Allie Booth. Where? Will you stand up for me for a minute? This young lady's going to get baptized in 2 weeks. Right? So, we are, now you can sit, unless you want to stand for the rest of the day. I don't know. So, baptism it's not magic or anything like that. It's a public declaration of her faith. It's publicly affirming her commitment to Jesus. And the public part of that's kind of important. So we are going to do that as a family on the 3rd of November after service. We are going to get in our cars and we are going to go up to Memorial Lake. That is important for her. When we do the baptisms here, we do it at a place that's important. If you remember, we baptized Scott Niesel in the creek behind where his house used to be that took his house and his whole life, got uprooted in it. So when we baptized him there, it was so significant. She's picked Memorial Lake. Before anybody says anything, I don't know if you can actually swim in Memorial Lake, but every now and again, it's better to ask forgiveness than permission. So we're getting in. In November 3rd, we're getting in the water, and if somebody comes and tells us we can't, hopefully we'll be out by then. But we'll say that we're very, very sorry we didn't know. And only us here will know that maybe we did know. Okay? But we are publicly doing this. And so everybody come. Everybody come if you can. We're just going to go right up there. She's going to give her testimony and what she's doing, and then we're going to talk just for a little bit, and then we're going to put her under the water and come out something new and be that perfect, that beautiful sacrament, I guess is what you would call that is in all through the Bible. So I can't wait. I'm so proud of her. So it'll be a cool thing. So we're going to move into the next part of Ephesians. We're going to finish up Ephesians by the end of the month. Next month is also Christmas child. So we have a bunch of things coming up. So we're going to finish this pretty soon. I don't know what we're going to study after that, but we'll figure it out. But today is actually kind of the day that I've been waiting for. So I'm kind of excited. You'll find out why in a minute. But first, one last thought on submission. The reason that submission is so hard, and it's such a divisive topic. When we start to talk about all of those things that we've been talking about, submission and all that stuff, why it's so divisive. And hopefully, after these last couple weeks talking about it, you really have no idea why it's so divisive. You've been thinking, I wonder why it is, because that just makes all the sense in the world. God's plan makes complete sense there. I don't know why everybody gets all in a twist about that. Right? So hopefully, we're confused as to why it's so controversial. But the reason why it's so hard is very, very simple. And it's sin. That's it. Now, sin is just missing the mark. God has a plan for us. Think of it like a target that we just miss. You can miss it by a little and you can miss it by a lot, but sin just means you miss. Okay? That's all that sin means. So, a little bit on sin and how it has to do with this. The whole mess began when the first two people had the choice to submit to God's leadership and didn't. That's the whole mess. And they didn't for the exact same reasons that we don't. The exact same reasons. Nothing has changed really in the human situation, right? The human disease, I heard a song once, and I like to do that. The human disease is still the same, right? Our hearts are full, overflowing with pride, rebellion, and self-will. Essentially, we really like it our way. Right? We really, really like it our way. We really, really like to be right. We really like to say how it's going to be. Right? We really, really like to control. Or the delusion of control. I would say illusion, but it's a delusion. We all know it, right? This idea that we can control anything. And that's what it's all about. Because, okay, here's the question that we all have when it comes to submission, right? Maybe we don't say it, but let's say it today. What if they get it wrong? What if they get it wrong? Now, the bad news about that is they will. In all cases. All of us will get it wrong. Now, in all cases, except for God. But even with God, let's be fair about this. Let's be fair. If we don't like it, we might even think he doesn't know how to do it right. Right? How many times have we not wanted to give it up to God either because we've decided, well, God's going to mess this up. Now, we won't say it. I know that we don't say it, and I shouldn't have said it anyway. Right? Because we like to pretend. Right? Maybe God doesn't even have all the information that I do. Maybe he isn't as capable or skilled or qualified as we are. Humility just means that we are so humble. We have the gift of humility, right? To recognize that we are the only ones that can keep this train rolling on the tracks, right? We are the only ones who can do it right. I know how your life should go. I know how the election should go, and I'm the only one that has figured that out, right? And when you vote differently from me, you're wrong. That's it, because I know. And I'm humble enough to be able to say that. Right? I get it. So, with all of this working against the principle of submission, why would we ever continue to get back on the path over and over, pulling ourselves back under his will, willingly putting ourselves, quote, under the disposition of another? Do you remember we said that word last week? Under the disposition of another. Why would we ever choose to put another above us? Why would we choose to submit to each other? Now, when I say each other, you're going, what? I thought every woman was supposed to submit to every man. But every other. Don't forget, this whole passage begins with verse 21. Submit to each other, to one another. And there are lots of times when the husband chooses to get under his wife, right? To chooses to lift her up. Leadership is not just standing at the top looking down at everybody. It is lifting everybody up, right? Purposefully, respectfully, in service of a greater mission, vision, divine call, whatever you want to call it, right? It is putting ourselves, the leader puts themselves under the mission as well. And let's bring this all back. Let's take the word submission apart. What does sub mean? Under the mission. There's a mission here. There's a mission, and it's a divine mission that God has given us, and we put ourselves under that. So, why would we ever choose to do that? Why would we ever choose to submit to one another? It's not easy, but it's simple. It's simple. Verse 21 continues. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Because he is God and we are not. That's it. Because he loved us first, and this is how we love him back. Right? John 14:21 says, now this is in the red words. Some Bibles have Jesus' words in red, and some people call themselves red-letter Christians because they don't want to follow Paul's writings or anything like that, or even the Old Testament. They just follow what Jesus says, not knowing that the whole Bible's about Jesus. Okay? So, let's just use the red letters here where he says, those who accept my commandments and obey them are the ones who love me. That's the why. That's why we keep doing this. I don't know if you got my sarcasm or whatever with the whole humility business. That's not humility. Right? When we decide that we're the only ones that are holding this all together. I was just kidding. Okay? So the whole thing is, when we do this, when we follow our pride, when we follow our self-will, when we say words like, it's not supposed to be like this, as if we were the arbiters who decide. Right? We were the ones who get to decide how it's supposed to be. When we do that, we see it, and then we pull ourselves back under the mission. I'll tell you, here's just a personal thing. I had a huge epiphany. This week, I was on vacation, and there's this thing I've been struggling with, and I think to myself, I don't know how to carry all of this. Okay? I don't know how, and essentially now I'm going to use the word that I just used today, and that's a little bit embarrassing here. I don't know how to hold the world together. I don't know how to carry all the responsibility I have to make everybody do what I want them to do. Okay? Essentially. Now, I know these things that I just learned this week. But there's a difference between knowing and knowing. So, I'm in the ocean this week, and it's cold and whatever, with all these beautiful waves. I love the ocean. I hate the beach, but I love the ocean. So I'm in, and all these waves are rolling, and I'm thinking, they just continue to roll. I don't make them. Nobody else makes them. They just keep rolling. The earth continues to spin. The sun, I don't know if you know this, comes up every day. And I don't decide. I don't decide about that. So then I started to think, God does all of this. And yet, I need to control everything. I need to keep this train on the track. I need to make sure the earth keeps rolling and the sun keeps coming up. And then I thought, well, isn't that silly? Maybe the reason that I don't know how to carry all of this stuff, the weight of the world, is because I wasn't ever supposed to. Do you ever feel like it's just too much? It's just too much. That's because it is. That's it. It's because it is. It's because we're too busy following our sin nature that we received straight down the path from the first man and woman. That's how things go. So, that's the why. We get under the mission. We stop trying to do that, and we pull ourselves back. And we do that because of love. I have said before, and I'm going to say it probably a million more times if I get a million more messages, or I'll say it maybe 100 times per message. The answer to every question is love. That's it. Or Jesus. And they're the same thing. Okay? So that's the answer to every question. Well, why? Well, because we love each other. Love. Love. That's it. Okay? We clear? Now. Ephesians 6. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you and you may enjoy long life on the earth. Amen. Everybody have a great day. All right. Obey your parent. Obey your dad. I love it. I love it. Better yet, really why I get so excited is because I'm thinking, obey me. Obey me. This one is perfect, and I'm really, really happy to give this message with my boys here. I was telling them all week. Can't wait for Sunday. So good. Because I like to keep telling them what they have to do for me. Right? Because the Bible says so. And it's really received the same way that Angel receives it when I say, wives, submit to your husbands. She doesn't like me to tell her that either. Okay, so David Guzik says, the command is simple. Children are to obey your parents. Now, this is great because it's not just me telling you. Right? This guy, David Guzik, who I really like, says also to obey your parents. Now, obey, remember, obey, the difference between obey and submit, okay? Obey is an action. We do it because we're told. That's it. We submit to God. We submit. That's a willing choice to put ourselves under. We understand the mission and we are following that. We submit. And when we don't like it, or understand, or want to, then we obey. Anyway, we do it because we willingly put ourselves under submission, but also we do it because he said so. We willingly put ourselves under that submission, and because he said so, it is obedience. Okay? I don't have to understand why. I don't have to like it. I don't have to want to. It's like a God thing. God doesn't care if you want to. Jesus tells us to do it. Right? Jesus tells us to love each other. Love your enemies. Well, I don't want to. I don't care. Right? Nobody cares. We obey because he gives us everything. He gives us everything. So this is how we love him back. So these two things obviously can look similar, right? And out of respect and honor, but they're not always the same. Paul isn't asking, in this point, kids to get under the mission, right? He's saying, do it because your parents said so. Now, Husey continues, this not only means that children have the responsibility to obey, but parents have the responsibility to teach their children obedience. One of the most important jobs for parents. Now, this is bad news, because this is already pointing. You see where this is going to go. This is going to come all the way back to the parents again. And it comes back to my and our responsibility. Is it possible? And I guess this kind of, I've already given it away. Is it possible this is going to follow the pattern of submission? Right? Probably, but we'll get there another week. Okay? He says, in the Lord. Do this in the Lord. It's the same as the situation with the wife. The lifestyle of a follower of Jesus is one of submission. Now, different from wives, the voluntary part isn't exactly necessary here. Okay? And also then he says, it's right. Okay? And now, maybe when you say things like that, when you see that, read that in the Bible because it's right to do so, you think, uh-oh, culture tells us there's no such thing as right and wrong, that it's all relative. Right? Whatever it is, whatever's popular opinion. But culture lied to us. Okay? Let's just be really, really clear with that. Culture lied to us. There are such things as right and wrong, and this is one of them. Okay? Now, here's an interesting note. The Bible's super interesting, and the deeper you get into it, the more interesting it gets, and you start to find all these different layers. As Shrek said, layers. Like you get down through it, and you start moving through, and you find all of these new amazing things. The Ten Commandments. What we do is we divide them into two. We divide them into the first 4, which are towards God, and the last 6 are towards each other. And if you look at them, it's like, no other gods before me, Sabbath. Those are the first 4, no idols. And then the last 6 are like, don't kill, don't lie, don't commit adultery, all of that stuff. Okay? So that's how we divide them. But Jewish people divided them right down the middle into 2 sets of 5 because they saw this commandment, children obey your parents, as towards God instead of towards each other. It's more towards God. It's more a commandment towards God, how we honor God instead of towards man. Right? Isn't that cool? It's just like that other thing. This is the other thing that gets me so excited. 10 Commandments. There's a way to look at them, and it's how I choose to look at them, where it's 9 commandments and a reward. The first 9 are the first 9. The last one is thou shalt not covet. Okay? But the idea is, if you do the first 9, you won't want anybody's anything. So the 10th is a reward for you. How much do we put into, I really want their stuff. I got to work more. I got to do more so that I can have this stuff. And how that chains us up. Right? That's the chain and the bars that hold us in. Now, the 10 Commandments say, hey, if you do this, if you put God first, and you do all this to love each other, you're not going to want anybody's anything. And that is freedom. What a cool thing the Bible is, right? What a cool list of 10. So, anyway, you don't get as excited as I do, but you will. So, here's the big question. Here's the big question that we're asked here. Are we honoring our parents? And notice how I asked that. I'm not asking, are Sam and Elisha honoring me? Okay? Because this is not, just like everything else, this is not to force somebody else to do something. Right? This isn't to get enough knowledge and more verses so we can hit somebody with them. Right? This isn't a verse to beat them up or beat any kids up. Right? It's a mirror. It's a mirror. Here's a cool thing. Here's another cool thing. There's a thing that Jesus says. Before you look at the speck in your neighbor's eye, take the log out of your own. Now, that's funny. Jesus is funny because that's a big joke. Now, think about a big plank in your eye. That's really funny. Like, that's kind of performance art. But the truth is, these things are the planks in our eyes. Now, it never, ever, ever says, don't help your brother with the speck. Never says that. It never says, hey, just ignore the speck that's in your neighbor's eye because you don't want to be judgy. It never says anything like that. It says, hey, address you, and then you can come with somebody. Right? If I have a big plank in my eye for me to look at you and go, hey, you got this thing in your eye, did you ever have somebody say, you got a little something in your teeth? And they have a bunch in their teeth. That's funny. That's what this is. Take care of your own teeth, and then point mine out. I'd really like that, right? That makes sense, right? Okay. Now, this is called, before we get any further, what I wanted to say in the beginning is we have big news. One of the people who serve you every single week is my son Elisha. Will you stand up? We had a big moment this week. He has worked very, very hard over his life in school and things like that. He's been given an enormous amount of gifts. And he decided where he's going to go to college. He's going to go to Lycoming College. And he got a great big scholarship and things like that. So we are very, very proud of him. I forgot. I was too excited to tell him to obey me. Okay. I know you guys probably get really, really tired of me being sickeningly proud of my children, but tough.
We love it. We want it.
Okay. This is called the Forgotten Commandment. Isn't that funny? Because we don't really want to. We don't really know what honoring means. We don't really know what respecting means, and we've decided that, well, there's a bigger question here. We'll get there. But it's called the Forgotten Commandment. Now, I write a blog, and in it a couple weeks ago, I said how our lives would change if we honored. Remember how it said honor? What we were talking is husbands honor your wives first. Wives honor your husbands first. If we honored everyone, how would every single relationship in our lives change? Right? If we honored those in our homes, our friends, our family, our neighbors, our enemies, and ourselves, how would everything be different? If I could honor me, if I could live to the place, into the identity that God gives me, how would everything be different? You wouldn't have to tell me, hey man, that's not good for you. That's a bad decision. Because I'd already be doing it. Right? Okay, here's just an example I heard once. There are places where the parking lots are obscured because nobody wants to be seen parking there. Okay? Now, there's a reason why nobody wants to be seen parking there, because they feel a tremendous amount of shame parking in those places. But nobody would have to tell you, hey, that place, if you have to hide that you're parking there, it's probably not the best thing for you. Okay? Nobody would have to tell you that if you were already honoring you. If you already knew that you were royalty. Right? But what does honor look like? That's the big question. I don't even really know what the word means. I don't even really know what honoring looks like. A theologian named Rainey says, honoring parents by thanking them, forgiving them, because here's news. Now, my boys don't know this. Parents don't always get it right. Okay. By praising them and by taking the initiative to build a relationship. Most people would have, now this was in the context of a bigger story, most people would have counseled this young woman to turn her back on the father who physically abused her. He's not deserving of your love, they'd say. And yet, she chose to honor him anyway, which sounds an awful lot like agape, right? By expressing her love and giving him the hope of a relationship. Get ready for these last couple words, these last 4 words. Giving him the hope of a relationship that he didn't deserve. That is so good. 1 Peter 3:9 says, live not returning evil for evil or insult for insult, but giving a blessing instead. For you were called for the very purpose that you might inherit a blessing. We are called to bless each other. We are called to love each other. We are not called to say, they dishonored me, I'm dishonoring them. We don't have to talk about the eye for an eye, right? We've talked about that before. That was the Old Testament, and that was very progressive at the time, and that is not what we are called to do anymore. Okay? If you have questions about it, I'd be happy to talk about it. Castleberry says, in ancient cultures, to honor someone was to acknowledge their importance and value in a way that was reflected in one's own life. In fact, the Hebrew word translated into English as honor, kabod, literally means heaviness or weight. So to honor someone is to live life in such a way that that person proves to be heavy and weighty in one's life. In honoring their parents, children simultaneously learn how to honor the God whom their parents honor. Simply stated, children are to obey and honor their parents because in so doing, they learn to love and worship the living God. For this reason, cursing one's parents in Scripture is tantamount to shaming God. This is why the penalty in Israel for cursing one's parents was death. Now, this is something that we've kind of been playing with a lot, and I don't know that we put it quite in these terms. If we're all made in the image of God, and I don't know if we remember the parable where Jesus said, when you gave a drink to the least of these, you were giving it to me. And when you didn't give a drink to the least of these, you were not giving one to me. You see what we're saying here? When we are rude, nasty, disrespectful, abusive to someone else, we are rude, nasty, disrespectful, abusive to Jesus Christ. It's just unbelievable. When idolatry also is putting and division in people is putting that division, and it's just like saying, that whole sacrifice, that whole Good Friday and Easter Sunday, that's not quite enough to bridge the aisle between Republican and Democrat. Right? It's just not enough. And when we say, I'm too bad, I fall outside of God's grace, I need to get it together, it's just like saying, sacrifice the blood's not enough. All of these things are things we would never ever say, but we say them all the time. So, here's a little bit of what it looks like. And I'm not going to name any names, but it's Samuel. Okay? So as I was writing this a month ago, 2 months ago, whatever, he came downstairs, and what he was doing was cleaning his room, because it needs cleaned all the time. And Angel had asked him to do that. He doesn't like his room clean, he doesn't really care. But Angel asked him to do it, so he did it. Okay? Then he came downstairs, and he's a love language physical touch guy. So, on the way to the basement where his video games are, he hugs me. Because he plays me like a tune. Okay? So, he hugs me, and the thing was, earlier in the day, I asked him to do a really, really hard thing. Okay? And I'm not going to get you into all that, but it was a really hard thing that was really uncomfortable for him. And I don't know that he understood it. I don't know that he knew why I was asking him in particular. But it was a really, really hard thing to love somebody else. And I know when I told him it's not his favorite thing in the world. But he did it, and he did it beautifully. Just beautifully. Like, you just can't believe it. Then he came home, and when he came home, he brought a cupcake, a big, fattening cupcake for us to share, and told me all about it. That is a cool, everyday picture of honor. Okay? That's what that looks like. There are a million examples of this. Our job is to find them. And our other job is to be them. Okay? How many times do people ask us to do something and we go, no, I don't want to. Maybe we could. To honor them. I'm going to blow your mind with what I found coming up here as to what honor is. Okay? But to start with, how about if we start treating each other like they're made in the image of God, and we start honoring each other? Right? We start listening to each other. We stop looking at our phones and look at each other and listen. You know what's funny? I was just saying stop looking at our phones because it drives me crazy when I see people at dates. Like they're out to dinner and they're on their phones instead of talking to each other. But I believe there were people in this room who were on their phones right then and thought I was talking to them. I wasn't. Okay. So, hey, find them. Keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes open. Okay? This happens all the time. Like this little thing that Sam did. It's every day. It's what we can call an everyday miracle. It's a miracle. It's an everyday act of grace and beauty and honor that is absolutely worthy of the God of the universe. And these are happening all. Creation is crackling all over. We just have to find it and plug into it and be it. Love somebody. Let somebody in who's trying to get in instead of when they're trying to merge. Let them in. That's how we honor people. How about if somebody says, I'm voting for this person, you go, oh, really? Tell me why. Instead of, no, you should do it for this reason. You should vote for the other guy. That's not honor. Okay? So John Piper says, respect, I think, refers most often to our inner assessment of someone's character or achievement, while honor refers more to our various demonstrations towards them in words or behaviors that express our respect. Respect is to decide that we are all made in the image of God. Okay? Honor is how it comes out of us. Okay? Honor, like love, like agape, is an action. Right? Love languages don't require us to really want to. They don't require motivation, whatever. You just do it. Right? It doesn't matter if you want to. Maybe honor also doesn't care if you want to. Right? We can live into new ways of thinking all the time. We just continue to make the right choice. Nobody feels like going to the gym in the morning. But then you do. And then you do again, and then you do again, and again, and again, and then it becomes who you are. Right? Remember what obedience means. All the time we have to reset this, okay? We obey our God by honoring those made in his image. So what we're talking about here is choose to use words about your parents and behave in such a way that will show their weight in your life. Choose to use the words that will bring life. Just as a personal example here. So you know more about my dad than probably you ever needed to know, right? If you had known me 25, 30 years ago, I didn't have an awful lot of nice things to say, okay? I'll tell you, the one thing that I'm going to go forever today. I'm sorry, I'll miss out. The one thing that I always would have said is, my dad made you feel like he was waiting for you all day, like Dean May. Okay? When he goes like this. That's why I do that, because of Dean May. He makes you feel like he's been waiting for you all day. You remember my dad. He was waiting to see you. And I thought, I would really like to do that. Now, he was also a raging alcoholic. Okay? All of those things are true. But in the beginning, when I was dishonoring of him, the only thing that was important was his alcoholism. Now, that's just a part of who he was. I think it would be disrespectful and dishonoring for me to ignore that. Everybody's different things. But now you will hear me say many, many good things about my dad. I wish more than I can tell you that my dad would be here Saturday night. Gosh, if my dad ever would have walked through that door, I can't even tell you. It's just different. It's just different. You know, that's honor. That's honor. Now I see his weight in my life. That's honor. Yeah, of course, all those other things are true. Yep. They are. And I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to lie to anybody. Wouldn't lie to him either. Okay. Moving on. John Piper continues, this may be the most important with regard to what is distinctly Christian. There's a kind of honor, here we go, get ready, I'm going to blow your mind here. There's a kind of honor that's freely bestowed without reference to any quality or position or reputation or virtue or rank or demerit in the person honored. In other words, there's a way of honoring that, as it were, doesn't respond to honorableness, but bestows it. It treats a person as though honorable, as though worthy of our service because we give it to them. Paul roots this way of honoring people in the very mind of Christ and in his sacrificial incarnation and sacrifice on the cross. Philippians 2. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourself. Was anybody more significant than Christ? Yet Christ made himself less than everybody. Right? He served everyone. Have this mind among yourselves, which is yours in Christ Jesus, who, though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself by taking the form of a servant. Piper goes on. So there's a kind of honoring that we freely and graciously bestow on the undeserving. We treat them better than they deserve. We assume the position towards them of servants, and thus, in a way, we exalt them as though they're worthy to be served, when in fact they're not worthy to be served. That's great, right? I just love that last part, because it's so honest. It answers the question, and the one we always, what if they're not honorable? What if they're not respectable? And he answers it by saying, they're not. There's no what if. They're not. I love that. They're not. Now what? Now what are you going to do? So good. And thus, we bestow a kind of free honor upon them, which is called grace, the way Christ did to us, the way his sacrifice pours out onto us. Honor as though we were honorable when we're not. There is a way of honoring that. This is what he said. There's a way of honoring that doesn't respond to honorableness, but bestows it. And this is the interesting perspective shift that changes every single thing, right? So we ask, how do we honor the dishonorable? John Piper argues that in our honor, we make them honorable. Thank you. It's so exciting. Over and over, we come back to Genesis 1 and our creation. You and I and they are made in the image of God. We are all made in, by, and for love. He loves us all the same, with the same amazing bottomless love, and that's all we need to know. But they don't deserve it. Maybe. Maybe about it. They don't. Maybe the vineyard workers that we all hate that parable, but maybe the vineyard workers didn't deserve to get paid the same, right? The 5 p.m. didn't deserve to get paid as much as the 6 a.m. But maybe the landowner was paying the 6 a.m. way more than they deserved too, and they didn't deserve what they got either. Right? It's probably time to come to terms with the fact that nobody deserves what they get. The point is, even if it was up to us to decide who deserves what, we don't. We don't deserve it either. We ask for fair, but the Bible asks, do you really want fair? And the answer that the Bible gives is, you really, really don't. I promise you, you really, really don't. Over and over in these parables, the landowner goes, come on, man, you really don't want fair. I promise you don't. Over and over, while we were still far away, while we were enemies of God, he brought us close. You don't want what you deserve. That is called grace. And our response to our rescue, to this grace, is, in this case, obedience. He asks and tells us to do it, so we do. Why? Even if we don't know, he does. He does. Or he wouldn't ask us. Right? If it didn't matter that we take Sundays off, the Sabbath off, and that's just using an Old Testament example, that no longer applies. It's a gift to you. Okay? But even if it didn't, it matters to him, which means it's important to us. Right? Sometimes we just have to take his word for it. For our good, for our health, and for our life. What you will find, I can almost assure you, if we start to live into that identity, that kingdom gospel identity, we will find that we feel better. That we stop making the decisions that are ruining our lives and having us live the same loops that we keep living. Here's a great example. It's very trivial. I eat all the cake. Okay? If I stopped eating the cake, I'd feel great. Right? Just like that. Just like that. God's saying, stop eating the cake! And if I do, I feel great. If I start taking days off, if I stop trying to hold the whole world together, I'm going to feel great. I'm going to feel like there's not that big a weight on my back. So, I gotta be. Here's where we bring it all together. Speak kindly. Speak kindly, with weight, with beauty. Bestow honor upon them. Bestow honor upon your parents, but also everybody else. Even those who don't vote the way that you do. Even those. And I know that's the worst. They're monsters. And in that, we show everybody what it is to honor the God of the universe. The God of you and me, and the God of everything. That's how everybody looks at us and says, there's something different. Right? How many times can you not tell? Can you not tell? Who follows Jesus if you read their Facebook feed? They should know all the time. Because of the way we speak, the way that we give honor where it's not deserved. The way we love. It's a song, it's cliche. They will know we are Christians by what?
By our love.
By our love. What if we're not loving? What did they learn about the God of the universe and the God of you and me? It's just new. It's just a new ruler of this world. And the next one. But this God's different. This God is the God of yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and made everything. And it's totally different. It's not just something new. It's something different. It's a whole new creation. It's not just a change in what's here. It's a whole new thing. See, I told you. You need to stand there. So that
Please stand. Let's do our song of the moment.
Miracles when you move, such an easy thing for you to do. Your hands moving right
Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. See you Saturday.